Everyone, Eric Reschner with Regatta Research and Money Management. I want to share with you updates on the SECRUE Act 2.0. This was passed by Congress on December 23rd, 2022, and signed into law by the President on December 29th, 2022. Now, this act implements several changes that may affect many different areas of financial planning, from your required minimum distribution rules to employer and catch-up provisions. There are embedded in this legislation new ways to access retirement savings without incurring a penalty, and even entirely new opportunities like the 529 to Roth transfer, as well as the new emergency savings accounts. Many investors, and rightfully so, have questions about how this impacts them and what they should be doing about it and when. This video we put together will proactively identify planning opportunities based on the year in which to become effective. Let's jump right in. Let's start with the changes made to required minimum distributions. If you were born between 1951 and 1959, your RMD begins when you turn 73. If you were born in 1960 or later, your RMD begins when you turn 75. A big change from the prior rules. And if you're within this age bracket, you now have got a few more years before you must take them out. Also, this later delayed RMD timeframe gives you a longer window to implement additional tax planning strategies. Think of Roth conversions. Think of harvesting capital gains. Think of accelerating taxable distributions before your RMDs commence. This can, given the right circumstances, potentially significantly reduce you or your heirs' overall tax liability in the future. But that's not all of the new tax planning RMD opportunities that are embedded in this new act. For those of you that are looking for additional ways to delay your RMD and or reduce the chances of outliving your money, one of the biggest fears of nearly all retirees, you may want to consider putting a portion of your annuity into what is called, this is a mouthful, a qualified longevity annuity contract. Now, why would you do this? This vehicle can enable you to delay taking RMDs on that portion that's in that vehicle until the age of 85, a significant difference. If you do want to go this route, there are a few hoops that you need to jump from, a few restrictions. And one of them is that to be mindful of the $200,000 limit, although it is adjusted for inflation. There are also some goodies buried in this act for those with employer matches on their retirement plan contributions. If you have this, you may now want to consider whether electing the newly allowed employer matches to Roth accounts, which is of course treated as taxable income, but grows tax-free over time, a big plus, particularly if you believe that tax brackets are going to creep up over the course of time, and or if your income in retirement will be higher. This may be much better suited to many investors' tax or planning goals. These changes are not just limited to a fairly narrow scope of your traditional 401k plans. Simple IRAs, SEP IRAs are also now allowed to make Roth contributions, a nice big change. If you're unfortunately struggling yourself or a close family member with a terminal illness and you'd access to funds, Congress showed a little bit of empathy this time around. The act allows you to access your retirement funds early, but without penalty. Wonderful combination, but with a little bit of an odd requirement you should be aware of. This exception only applies if your doctor expects you will pass away in the next 7 years. So it is what it is, but that planning opportunity is available, and I wanted to make sure you are aware of that. Now, the sudden and extreme financial impact of COVID-19 on many Americans inspired Congress to loosen up the extremely tight hardship restrictions as well. If you need to take a hardship withdrawal from your retirement plan and the timing is urgent, you can now request a withdrawal from your employer via the newly allowed self-certification process. No evidence is required, and if this is adopted by your employer, the process can be expedited. Be mindful to document your evidence in the amount that you are audited at a later date by the IRS. For those of you who are charitably inclined, you may also consider whether making qualified charitable contributions, they go by the acronym QCDs, to a charitable remainder trust, acronym CRT, or a charitable gift annuity makes sense for your situation. These can be compelling on their surface, but they're not always for everyone. You want to make sure you're aware of the associated limitations and costs with these vehicles because they can be quite high in many cases. Now, let's jump in our time machine to 2024, the year of the dragon. In East Asian cultures like China and Vietnam, the dragon is considered to be a symbol of power, of good luck. And in 2024, the SECRUE Act expands its provisions out, offering even more good luck, so to speak, to investors who are both aware and take advantage of the opportunities it presents. Let's start with those who overfunded their 529 educational savings plans for their children or their grandkids. Instead of being stuck in that vehicle, your luck just changed as you now have a new option. You can now transfer it to a beneficiary's Roth IRA if they have earned income. You can now give them tax-free growth. You can now give them a little nest egg that over the course of time and giving significant number of compounding periods could really grow to a sizable amount. Keep in mind that there is a $6,500 annual transfer limit that are reduced by any regular contributions and a $35,000 lifetime benefit per beneficiary. I know that's not a huge amount, but again, oftentimes the beneficiaries are, children in high school or in college, and their time frames are not, of course, 10 or 15 years. It could be 20, 30, or 40 over their financial planning lifetimes, and this can grow to a sizable component. So we wanted to make sure you're aware of that opportunity now. What other goodies did Congress provide? Are you an employee who plans to make up catch-up contributions to your employer's retirement plan and your high income, your wages over $145,000? If so, now consider the impact of being eligible to make contributions to a Roth account that are catch-up. A nice change, especially if you don't need to touch it for a while. And you believe, as I shared earlier, your tax rates will be higher later on in life. Do you have a younger spouse that you anticipate may predecease you? They may have a terminal illness or family longevity issues, genetics or healthcare or what. And they also have a retirement plan that you may potentially inherit. If so, consider whether electing, if allowed, to be treated as your deceased spouse. What that really means is that you could start taking RMDs now based on when they would have needed to take them. This may, in certain situations, be more appropriate for your financial goals. Now, another issue to consider is that it looks out for victims of domestic abuse who need to access funds in the retirement plan. A great cause and a great new vehicle for those that may unfortunately be in such a challenging circumstances. The SECRUE Act 2.0 now allows penalty-free access up to $10,000 or $50,000 of your vested balance, whichever is less, via self-certification with your employer. There are a few other important items coming online in 2024 besides the ones I just shared with you. There is a new emergency savings account that your employer can now offer as part of your retirement plan benefits. If this option is available, consider whether contributions, including employer matches to this account, could appropriately complement your emergency fund and or savings goals. Be mindful, of course, there are limitations that apply. For example, a $2,500 limit, one distribution per month, and it must be held in a cash-like account. Highly compensated employees can't participate either. If you have student loans, consider whether you may want to take advantage of the newly allowed employer match on student loan payments, which can make sense for your situation if you have student loans and permitted by your employer. This could be a great way for those who have a lot of student loans to reduce their debt quicker. Finally, if you are a business owner planning to start or make changes to an existing retirement plan, consider reviewing the changes made to retirement plans before making your decision. For example, the starter 401k, the decreased hour requirements for an employee participation, the changes to simple plans and the non-elective contributions could really start to make a big difference. You have a wider palette to select from to make sure that your plan is as custom tailored and bespoke as possible. Finally, if you are a business owner and considering establishing a retirement plan for your business for the prior tax year, and you are a sole proprietor or your LLC is taxed as a sole proprietorship, consider whether retroactively establishing a 401k as opposed to a SEP IRA makes better sense for your business and tax planning goals. Keep it in your mind that your business must be established and funded before your personal tax filing deadline, excluding any extensions, in order to get a tax deduction for the prior year. I understand that's a lot of changes, but now we have a large number of investment opportunities that could really move the needle in certain situations. Now let's forward to 2025. This is the year the president-elect of the 2024 U.S. presidential election is scheduled to be inaugurated, and the year that NASA, and some nice big movements, will land the first female astronaut and the very first African American male astronaut on the surface of the moon through the Artemis 3 program. Now, SECRUE Act 2.0 is not dormant. They have two provisions that kick in. First, if you will then be age 60, 61, 62, or 63, and you want to make catch-up provisions to your employer's retirement plan, you could make increased catch-up provisions to your 401k or similar plan an amount of $10,000 or 150% of the applicable catch-up limit from the prior year, whichever is greater. If you have a simple IRA, you could make increased catch-up provisions in the amount of $5,000 or $150,000 of the applicable catch-up limit for the current year. Likewise, whichever is greater. If you are a sponsor or your employer has a new 401k or 403b retirement plan established after 2024, employees will be automatically enrolled in the 401k and 403b retirement plans. This is a wonderful development to help get greater participation in retirement plans so people have more money saved for retirement. This does not apply if you are part of an exempt place of employment. Exempt places of employment, think of those that have been in business less than 3 years, they have 10 or fewer employees. They tend to be nonprofits like churches or U.S. government jobs. They'll fall under that exception. Finally, let's discuss the key changes in the year 2026. A sports-heavy calendar we'll all be enjoying. 2 huge sporting events queued up, the World Cup and the Winter Olympics. And likewise, the SECRUE Act also has 2 big final editions debuting in 2026. First, for those of you who have already purchased or are planning to buy a long-term care policy, assuming it is even remotely affordable by then, a new planning opportunity is available. You will be able to take penalty-free distributions, which is the lessor of 10% of the investment balance or $2,500 adjusted for inflation from your retirement plan to pay for you or your spouse's qualified long-term care premiums. Be mindful of any limitations that apply. For example, the distributions can't exceed the long-term care premium. Finally, if you're currently disabled and your disability occurred before the age of 46, consider whether or not you'll be able to access the newly expanded ABLE accounts that could really benefit your financial planning goals if you're in this situation. ABLE accounts, or ABLE, are tax advantage savings accounts for families and individuals with disabilities. Now, this video covers just the highlights of SECRUE Act 2.0. If you don't have a copy already and would like a copy of the 3-page checklist we put together, just email me at eric@regattaresearch.com. That's ERIC@REGATTA research.com, and we'll gladly send it out to you. Now, if you enjoyed this video and like to learn more about investing in financial planning and haven't done so already, please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Until next time, thank you for joining me.